A very warm welcome to all of you. I am Priya Anand from PRM 16. So this is the second session of a heart-to-heart talk series. This event was conceptualized to bring back happy memories of our good old IRMA days, memories that will rejuvenate us and bind us. Through these talks, we aspire to reconnect with our professors, many of whom have left a deep impression on us. We want to hear them talk about their experiences at IRMA, their journey in shaping this institution, and a peek into how their engagement with the institution has shaped them. These anecdotes and insights, we believe, will add to the institutional memory of IRMA and help especially the younger batches relate to how this institution evolved over a period of time. So before I go further, I make a few housekeeping announcements. So coming back to the structure of the talk, for each talk, we have put together a panel which consists of 2 to 3 students that professor with whom we are having the conversation has taught and who have gone on and had their own amazing journeys. We believe that the memories of these students will spice these conversations. So for the second episode of the season 1 of the Heart to Heart talk series, we're privileged to have in our midst Professor M. Joseph Arul. So Professor Arul is how we all know him. So joining us in this session on the panel are 3 illustrious members of our alumni who have all been students of Professor Arul. So we have Annie George. And can you wait please from the 3rd batch? We have Meher Gadekar from the 5th batch and Siddhi Mankad from the 15th batch. So warm welcome, Sir Professor Arul, to you and our dear panelists. So Professor Arul did his master's in psychology from the MS University in Baroda, and he secured his PhD from the Sardar Patel University, Gujarat. He joined IRMA in 1980 after about 7 years of working at IIM Ahmedabad. He was at IRMA from the very first batch in 1980 till 1998. And after taking a voluntary retirement from IRMA, Professor Arul worked for another 9 years in leading academic roles at various reputed institutions, including the Presidency Business School, from where he retired as the director in April 2019. Professor Arul has published numerous papers in academic journals, and he continues to work as a freelance consultant and a trainer. And in this session, we are going to hear stories that we know, some we don't know, about Professor Arul and from Professor Arul. So let me ask Professor Arul the very first question. So, sir, you joined IRMA right from the day 1 of the first batch, and you may have had the responsibility of conceptualizing and creating content for the courses that you taught. You came from a context of teaching management in an apex institution, but how different was it when you were actually creating a course for a program which was aimed at creating management professionals for a development sector? So please tell us how you went about creating the courses and some stories that come to your mind as you think about the various activities that you undertook in preparing the course content.
Actually, the first course I had to prepare some material for was not the subject that I was used to. The subject was called, well, I'll tell you how it started. I was called by somebody by name Dr. Michael Hals from NDDB, the other side of the road. Okay, I mean, coming from IIM, I knew something about OB and a little bit about HR, but I did not know anything about what the courses in were going to be. But within 5 days of joining, I was called from NDDB by a person called Dr. Michael Hals, who was a very important man for the Operation Flood. So I went to him, I met him. He introduced himself. That was the first meeting we had between us. Then he asked me to introduce my background. I told him that. Then he said, well, the reason for calling you is that I am developing a course called IRM, Integrative Rural Management. We had never heard of integrative rural management. Integrated we had heard of, but integrative was new. And he said something, then I said, okay. Then he said, this new course that we are going to develop, I would like to know whether you would be interested in collaborating with me, with him. I said, what is the course about? He said, I don't know. Immediately I said, then I will collaborate, I said. And he laughed, I laughed, and my meaning in telling him that was that if he knows about what that subject was, then my collaboration will be only just carrying out the orders and commands he gives me. And he said he didn't know about the course, so it will be a real collaboration. He has some idea, I am sure, and I knew nothing. So that collaboration would be really a collaborative effort, and not just somebody giving me what to do and I just keep doing it. So that's how we started. Then as we proceeded, there was no material for the course. He just thought of it. He had some idea about what is this integrative rural management should do to the students of IRMA. Material, that was, I was supposed to be helping develop that. I was developing something. To case, went to the villages and wrote some cases in and around Anand. Then the first class came, nothing was yet pakka. So 2-3 days before the first session that was scheduled at IRMA, he got an idea. That year's annual report of NDDB, the cover page of which had Smita Patil, the actress, that Manthan Wali. So her photograph was, I remember, was on top of that page. Now that happened to be on that, but it was not for the photograph that we took a copy of the report. It's because of something that the chairman and other people had written inside that. We thought we would use that as a starting point. And whatever the course may be by the title and other material that we used, it was something like what business policy used to have in mind. Business policy you must have had, and IIM people had. It was a kind of an how is a policy made in rural management organizations? How does policy evolve? These aspects I was trying to address. Materials like this, hand to mouth for the first year. By the time we came to the year, we had material, okay, not so bad. So that was a pretty interesting and tough time trying to develop, trying to run a course, and preparation of the material is going parallelly. It is usually what happened, like IGB when I designed, I had some material ready, I knew what was going to be. Only I added some readings later on as I went on and kept changing. But IRM scratch, and there was much to scratch actually at that time. So that is how I started. I was supposed to be there only as for the first year. Second year they said I would start teaching. And by chance, somebody who promised me that I would be teaching in 1 year's time had already left the organization. So therefore people said nothing is in writing, so you continue what you are doing. Somewhat disappointed, I went on. One day, Dr. Subhash Sharma, who was the PRM coordinator. He called me, Arul, you wanted to teach, right? I said, yes. Are you interested still? Yes, of course I am. I said, so-and-so who is teaching that course has fallen sick. He's contracted chickenpox. So you have a chance to go and teach. I said, fine, I'll do that. What course? He said, HR. Now, HR I had never taught, and it was not my direct subject. Mine was more of OB rather than HR. But, you know, they are related. It was not completely a strange subject to me. So I said, okay, when do I have to start? This meeting happened one afternoon. And he said, next class you have to take, the first class you are going to take is tomorrow morning at 8:30. 8:30 was the starting time for our classes at that time. So I said, bhai, I have hardly had any touch with HR. Now tomorrow morning is very difficult. Then I thought if I say no, I might lose a chance to teach. So I said, give me 1 hour. In that 1 hour, I went and met the students. One of them, I asked them, please give me that HR TAU material, teaching aids unit, produce material. So it was given to me, I went through it. As I promised, give me 1 hour. After 1 hour, I went to PRM coordinator, that is Subhash Sharma. I said, yes, I am ready to take the class tomorrow at 8:30. I started. I took the class. Before I went to the class, he asked, how many classes can you take? I said, I promise you only for tomorrow. Depending upon what happens tomorrow at 8:30 class, then I'll come and tell you whether I can take any more or not. He agreed. I went, I took, and my way of checking for myself whether my class is going okay, the students are with me, am I with them? That part of it depends upon, as far as I am concerned, even then till now, the kind of questions that students ask in the classroom is the basis on which I decide whether it was okay or not okay. And that day the questions came, that was I think the third batch, I think. R.C. Natarajan's class. Second batch or third batch, I forget. So the questions were many, and I could answer at least most of them, if not all. And it went okay by my standards. So after the class, I went back to the PRM coordinator and told him, "Why, my class is over. So how is it? Will you take, how many classes can you take?" I said, as many as you want. So that is how I started my teaching. Because somebody who was teaching was absent because of illness, I got an entry into the classroom, and from then I started teaching.
Is from the third batch. So let me quickly introduce Annie. Annie has across her career spanning about
I remember.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful, sir. So across her career spanning about 3 decades, she has worked across many sectors, including disaster management, dairy, and healthcare. Right now, she runs her own NGO called Bedrock. Bedrock is an acronym that stands for Building and Enabling Disaster Resilience of Coastal Communities. So Annie, besides disaster management, she is also passionate about responding positively to the needs of growing elderly population in India. So Annie, I think it's a good kind of place for you to start with what are the memories you have of Professor Arul's first class, because I saw you say that it is your class that actually had the fortune of being the first people to be taught at IRMA by Professor Arul. So over to you, Annie.
Thanks. Sir, it's a nice meeting up with you after so long. Hi. In fact, sir, what I remember about your class, one is you remember talking to us about internal locus of control and external locus of control? I think that has...
in the third batch, huh?
Okay. You were good even then, not later. Then there was another one which stood me in good stead right through. That's been the Johari window. So after that, I remember whenever I get angry about something and all that, then I sort of hear echoes of your voice talking to me about what is the internal locus of control and why am I so bothered about what somebody else is telling me. So I just wanted to share with you that not just in my professional life, but also in my personal life, your voice has echoed in my head over the years. So thank you very much for that. And sir, the other memories that I have is, you remember how we used to come to your house later in the evening just to have chat sessions? There used to be a group of us, Natarajan, Satish, Ramu, and all of us, and we used to talk about various things, including ghosts, Ouija board. We used to try and find answers to some of those questions. And I also remember ransacking your kitchen. You remember we made chicken curry and a lot of things in your kitchen. Of course, when your family was not at home. So we used to wait for them to go visiting before we come and ransack your kitchen. Do you remember any of that?
I remember only once somebody caught me in the kitchen with the cooking spoon in hand. And that was, I don't know whether it was Rajeshwaran was your classmate or a senior?
Yes. No, my batchmate.
He and Gauri, they caught me once in my kitchen. When somebody rang the bell, I came out and that spoon was in my hand. So they said, what's cooking? So they came straight into the kitchen. And I was the only fellow there inside in the house and in the kitchen. And if they told you this story, then it will be a repetition. My wife was not at home. She was in the hospital because the second baby was going to be born. She was in the hospital and I was at home, and she had given me what to do for my lunch.
Okay.
So she had given steps. And I said, come in. I went in and went back to where I left off my cooking work. And when I was busy doing something on the dekhi, Rajeshwaran happened to see that, what do you call it, recipe book that was written there, instructions, what to do. And he laughed on a sudden, and Gauri also started laughing. I said, what are you laughing at? Yeah, no, I'm looking at the recipe. Why is it bad? Not the recipe, the last bit of the instruction we saw. That is why we are laughing. You know what that was? Do this, do this, stir it, this, and eat. So that they saw that last one, eat, which I had not yet seen. So I remember that.
Okay. We used to ransack your kitchen quite often and try out our culinary experiments over there. And sir, that brings me to the question that I wanted to ask you, because I remember even while we were in your kitchen, apart from telling us where the ingredients were, you never used to look over our shoulders or say, hey, why are you doing this? Or that's not the vessel you should use. You were basically a totally non-intrusive person even there. You proactively trying to make a position for themselves. You know, each one of them was looking at how best they what are the things that they can do, what are the positions that they can hold. But during all that time, you were basically a very quiet, non-intrusive person who used to be very approachable, very helpful, but not pushing yourself forward. So I just wanted to know, it's just, and later on I came to know that you started becoming a very important person in among the faculty, the thing of IRMA. So I just wanted to know, in the first few years, your reticence and the way you behaved, was it a part of your OB training? Was it a strategic planning process, or was it just the person you are?
That non-intrusive you said, I agree. But quiet, I don't agree. Non-intrusive, yes. Even now, I don't. I might do it once in a while, but otherwise, I don't intrude. And it was, see, if I started teaching, I think I took only a part of the course, right? Only about 6 classes or something I took.
Yeah.
So there I couldn't plan much. But once the next batch, thanks to your batch, I was told 2 years later, I was told it was because of your batch that I was given a chance to teach a full course. Because I thought only
why so?
Somebody from your batch, they told me 2.5 years later, sir, we went and gave the feedback to somebody. I don't know if it was not Haldipur, it was before Haldipur. And Kamala Chowdhury, she used to come there for, as a visiting director sometimes from Delhi. You remember Kamala Chowdhury?
No, not really, because it was Dr. Haldipur who was there, full-time director.
Haldipur had come already.
He had already come.
So anyway, so I was given the batch after yours, I was given a chance to teach a course. Whereas in your case, I was neither in the plan or nor did I ever expect that I will enter a classroom, because they said it will take about 1 year for me to get into that. But when I got the chance to teach the full course, I actually sat and designed the sequencing and all that, which of course I changed about 3 or 4 times later. But first time, the batch after yours, I started teaching a course which was given on an experimental basis. In your batch, it was not an experiment. It was what you call helplessness. The PRM coordinator didn't want to leave you all free, because that professor who was teaching HR course had fallen ill. And Subhash Sharma didn't want you to be free. So he wanted the schedule. First I didn't feel like, because, and especially when he said it is tomorrow, one afternoon he's telling me tomorrow morning at 8:30 is your class. I said, Arey, what will I teach? I mean, I don't know. Then immediately something told me, Arey, you get a chance to teach which you wanted to do. Why say no to, if you say no, who knows when I'll get another chance.
True.
So I said yes and got into the classroom. And those 6 classes I took for you, some good souls amongst you, I don't know who it was, because the person who told me, one of your classmates 2.5 years later, when he met me on campus, because he had come, he said, sir, are you teaching? Yeah, no, sir, at that time. It was Arul only, na? So, Arul, are you teaching? So I said, yes, I am teaching this course, and designed and offered, and I am teaching it fully. You know what happened? You were not given a teaching at that time, and you came to substitute somebody's absence, and that is how you started. Then we liked your teaching, therefore we went and told your bosses that, he should be a teacher because he teaches well. He's very clear. So that's what you told me. Not immediately when I taught you. Written feedback I had taken from you people. But that was also as a part of a classroom exercise I gave. I remember performance appraisal was a topic.
Yes.
And I was teaching that. At the end of it, I gave you an exercise. Now that you know what is a performance appraisal, you develop both an instrument for assessing your teacher's performance, and they did that in groups. Then each person from each group, one person from each group was asked, given 2 minutes time by me, they said, you summarize whatever you discussed and present. Every group did that. At the end of it, before the class exercise was over, I said, you have done this, you have an instrument ready, parameters identified of performance. Now, just to apply that. Take that instrument, and whose performance are you going to apply it to? Your teacher, that is me now. So you apply the scale. I don't know if all the groups were supposed to, in their own groups of 5 or 6, were supposed to use the criteria that was developed by you, not by me. 4 or 5 or 6 parameters different groups had developed. So I said, against that, you rate your teacher, you get two things out of it. One is, if you do a good job of it, it is useful for me. But more than that, as students for you, you have a fairly good example of what performance appraisal is, how do you go about, you have to identify criteria for it, and criteria should have a criteria, what should be included in your set of parameters, what doesn't need to be, what is more important, what is not so important, what is only supportive. All this you do, you have done that, and you made a presentation. Now you apply it to somebody so that you actually are doing performance appraisal. And that was your batch. The first batch of 6 classes. So some of these people say, one person came and told me that some of you people went to the management and said that Arul teaches well, we follow what he says, and he's clear enough. So I think he will do well in teaching. So that is what I heard from one of your classmates, but not immediately.
Okay.
Later on, 2 years, 2.5 years later.
Uh-huh.
And by then I was teaching a full course.
Oh, okay.
And the full course has a history. They used to call, I don't know, you had a course called UB, didn't you? UB, Understanding Behavior.
Understanding Behavior, yes, yes, of course.
By the way, I took objection to that. I didn't like that word, understanding behavior. And I had a discussion and almost an argument with the director, that was Mr. Haldipur. What is this UB, understanding behavior? Is the logic that, you know, the objective of the course is to help you understand behavior? I said, yeah. So that's the case with every course you teach. Then you'll have to say understanding marketing behavior, understanding business policy, understanding operations research. So we don't say that. Why this partiality to only this UB? Therefore, I criticized it, and I suggested we'll name it on the basis of the content it has. So it is understanding individual, interpersonal, and group behavior. This is what the content of the course is. So, and then I said individual, interpersonal, group behavior becomes a little too long. Therefore, we took away the interpersonal, because interpersonal will be in between individual and group anyway.
Yeah, yeah.
So, to make the title shorter, I took away the interpersonal and said IGB, individual and group behavior.
Our second panelist for today is Meheram Gadekar. Friends call him Meher or Gadekar. He's from the 5th batch of IRMA. He's a development consultant, and he's also the vice president of our IRMA Alumni Association. He's currently based out of Pune. So Meher, I invite you to share your memories and ask a question.
I'm from PRM 5, and we had this course called IGB, Individual and Group Behavior, in the first term. And that was the first meeting with Professor Arul. Now, what I remember is he was a person who was very good at communicating. And of course, he had a very deep knowledge of his subject. But, hello? Hello, can you hear?
Yeah, we can hear me.
We can hear you.
Okay.
So, yeah, he had a very good knowledge of his subject. But what was very important is that he was able to arouse interest in this subject among the students, you know. So that is a very important quality for a faculty. The ability to arouse interest in the students. I mean, there were many conceptual things that were discussed in class, and there was the usual discussions that used to happen. But at the end of it, there were some questions which I thought I need to ask the professor, which I didn't want to ask in class. So on one or two occasions, after the class was over, I went and met Professor Arul. And I was quite surprised to know that some of my other batchmates had also gathered, and they also wanted to, you know, seek clarification get additional information, seek confirmation, or pose questions. So that shows how deeply he was able to engage with us, because this was a course which helps and which affects both the personal life and the professional life. So these are some of the memories I have of Professor Arul. Professor, I want to know from you, what are the memories you have of students in the initial few batches, say PRM 3, 4, 5, or 6, the initial batches, memories of students and memories of faculty.
You're asking me?
Yes.
Oh, acha. Well, initially, I don't know which aspect I should recall. The first 3 batches and the batches later, that is, I think your batch was 5th batch or 4th?
Yes, 5th batch. 5th.
Batch, 84,
84, 86.
Is that correct?
Yes, 84, 86.
So by then, what kind of atmosphere we had between teachers and students changed. But up to the 3rd batch, inclusive of the 3rd batch, there was not much of a distance between faculty and students. As Annie referred to it, there was not much of a distance. Yes, classroom, there was a teacher, there were students, all right. But otherwise, there was no question of, oh, he's a teacher, I am only a student. No such thing. Whether it is on the road, whether on campus, diagnostic lab campus of NDDB, or somewhere in Everfresh, now Everfresh, at that time it was Ambrosia Bakery, I think, the Jagannath. All these places were the same, except the classroom. Every other area that we met was the same. No much of distance between them, very free discussions. I remember discussing one of the topics that you people probably, if not ever, I can't say you never asked, but not so common. But the first 3 batches, and especially the 1st and the 2nd, very often, many different people at different times ask outside the classroom anywhere, what is this rural management? This used to be talked about everywhere by different students at different times. Because if you were to ask me, the other fellow, your classmate did not know you have already asked, because it was not in the classroom. It was somewhere outside on the road. Yesterday you may have asked, the same question is asked 2 days later by somebody else of your classmate, asking the same or another faculty member. So that used to be unpredictably happening every day. That was not the case from your batch onwards. So that one difference I noticed, that the relationship, I mean, I don't say that this is better or that is better, but it was more informal. Except in the classroom, everywhere else, students and teachers had a good informal relationship, and which was not always simply talking about useless things related to the subject, not related to the subject, general things like, what is rural management and how is it different from management that is taught in IIM. Such questions used to be very frequent. But of course, for more than one reason, not because there was a distance between the faculty and the students necessarily, these questions went down, because the clarity was more or less, the quality of the answers to these questions probably were accepted. Yeah, okay. Whether there's a difference or not, yeah, it is different. We believe it is different. We went ahead with that. So therefore, not so frequent later.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
And any memories of your faculty colleagues, sir?
Faculty colleagues. Memories, I remember many of them, but any specific questions you would like to address, or just general?
Generally.
Generally, one is, well, Dr. Michael Hals, because he gave me that unclear, but very later on I found very useful interaction with him, very, very useful, is asking me to collaborate with him in that IRM, Institute, Integrative Rural Management, the title course. So that was very useful. And actually I spent quite a bit of my first year common the register at IRMA. Then I would go to NDDB and sit there and do the work, preparing material for the IRM course. And so that was very, I mean, I can't forget my association with him, because without him, I wouldn't have got that chance.
And a fun fact, I am looking at this paper from about 25 years ago, where professor has issued guidelines for self-monitoring your questions in class. So there are 6 points. There are 6 points here. So the first point says, you have not done the pre-class preparation. Do not ask at all. So, and the last one is interesting. Meher, you will understand why there were a lot of people with professor. It says, your question requires a very long discussion. Then it says, meet me. If your question requires a very long discussion, then meet me after class.
Achha.
So with this, so there were clear instructions. So we go on to our next panelist, sir. So this is a person from a slightly different era. So this is closer to where we are all located. So the next panelist is Siddhi Mankar. Siddhi is from PRM 15. She works with the Catalyst Group, a group that promotes health and wealth of vulnerable communities. She's engaged primarily in qualitative research, learning for impact and development communication. She is based out of Bangalore. Siddhi, I invite you to share memories and ask a quick question.
Thanks, Priya. And sir, it's such a pleasure and an honor to be speaking with you today. I mean, pretty much later on in your journey of at IRMA, being from the 15th batch, but when I was with Jaya Padma, and when she kind of, asked me to be a panelist here, I was like, I don't think I can do that, because I started thinking, what did she teach me? And I remembered Maslow's hierarchy of needs very well. But more than what you taught me, I could remember what I felt. What were the emotions? And that's what I'd like to really share with you, that, a lot of what you taught was, I think it just kind of, it brushes against you. It just happens. And like Annie was saying, or Meher was saying, there's a lot that impacts professional life, but also a lot in personal life. But what I did remember, top of the mind, was that I used to love your course, IGB. And I thought that you were a wonderful professor. I used to actually want to go to class, and this had nothing to do with this whole compulsory forced attendance mechanism that we had there. So really wanted to do that, being attentive, preparing for class. So all of those things, I quite recall. And at the end of the class, you feel, yes, there is something that useful that you've learned. So so then I said, okay, fine. I agreed with JP, and I said, sure, I'll be there. And then I went back to, some of the things in my storage, and I did find the Tao from your class, which I was actually quite surprised, because I don't remember having kept it, but it was there. And then I started looking through my notes in it, and the notes and all also shows how involved that I was in those classes. And then a lot of things started coming to my mind, you know. I mean, I think some of the things about the individual frame of reference, attitude, giving, taking feedback, those were the things that I realized that it had made a difference, definitely. I mean, there were lots of things that hadn't made a difference. There was this whole section on leadership, and I'm like, oh no, I failed that one in life. But there were lots of other things that were very relevant, very about me, and I'm sure it would be about many other people out here. So I just want to share a very small anecdote, which again, that was something that was top of the mind. I totally remembered. Is that in class, when somebody would be making a presentation, at that time you would go to those, you know, the side stairs and just find a comfortable place, and you would be standing there and looking at that presentation, and occasionally you would light up your cigarette there, and you would be smoking in class. So once when there was a presentation going on, you came towards where I was, and I was towards the back, second last row there. And you asked some of us who were sitting there whether we minded that you smoked. And others didn't say anything, but I'm a person who does not, I'm not happy with anybody smoking anytime, anywhere. So I said, yes, I mind. And it was so nice because you just went to the other side and you went away from us. And that's when I realized that a lot of things that you talk about, you know, about assumptions, about respect, about, you know, this whole treating people well, that was something that you actually practiced. And I felt very good because you never came to our side again when you wanted to have a smoke. So, that was something that really felt good to me at that time. And that also you being a professor, and I do agree that maybe around that time there was a certain distance between faculty, at least personally it was definitely there, but that I could open out and say this to you and be open about it without any worry. So that's the thing that I did recall. So my one question for you, Professor Arul, is that, you know, you've given us so much, your students, you've given us so much, but what is that one thing that you believe that your students have given back to you during the course of your career? Sir, were you able to catch my question?
Students who asked me, not all of them, but most of the questions that students asked me in class was the one that made me answer. I remember a couple of times I said, what I know is very limited, but since the question is relevant to what we are learning, I will get back to you. I used to do that in the beginning. But after that, having repeated, so the similar questions used to come year after year. But every year, at least a couple of questions were for the first time. So these things makes one, is a good question, relevant question. As I said, not all the questions that were asked were, some of them were only for the sake of what they call CP. But there were good CPs. There were good CPs, meaning good questions relevant to the topic, and I have not clarified yet, or maybe it was going to be clarified later on. But such questions were the ones that really, I would say, I gained from the students, because if they didn't ask me the questions, who knows, somebody else would ask sometime. But the earlier it came, the better for me. I am better prepared the next time. So I would grant this, that my being active as a teacher was facilitated by those people who asked relevant questions. This I would grant all those who asked me the questions.
Murli, of course, I think it would be nice if you started putting a few comments there. If you could, if you're still around, you can ask, you know, what you've been putting in the chat box. Please ask Arul your question. Yeah.
Sir, I had 2-3 questions to you, Professor Arul. One is the behavioral lab. See, 2-3 days you used to do. By the time you reached our batch, 8th batch or 87, 89, people used to cry a lot during the lab sessions. Then they used to get talk to each one. So that is one behavioral lab. You may have some reflections on that. The second thing I wanted to ask you is, you have any interaction with Dr. Kurian? You might have some interesting interactions with him. You would like to bring to our notice. The third, of course, you are part of my admissions interview and you are a observer, behavior observer. So what was the role you are playing? So those were my 3 questions, sir. Did you hear me?
I don't know if it can't be that any OB class or any IGB class that I took ends up in crying and laughing. It very likely, I'm guessing, Murali has not clarified it, but I think if I'm just guessing, it can happen, especially when certain, instrumented classes that I used to have, certain instruments are filled and scores are taken and then interpreted. So when I interpret these certain personality factors, some people may be, they may have their self-concept which may be confirmed, in which case you feel nice, and your concept, whether consciously or unconsciously, that you have had about yourself is not confirmed by the data interpretation that comes on the basis of the scores that you got, which was based on the way you filled the questionnaire. That one, if it doesn't confirm your idea about yourself, people may feel irritated or feel sad and feel broken. That, I don't know if he is referring to that. That can have happened, it has happened also. But not after every IGP class, people come laughing or crying.
Not after every class.
Jaya Padma.
Yes, sir.
1 or 2 more sentences to complete
Yes,
Murali's question.
Please go ahead, sir.
So he asked, no, what is my sort of experience or how I responded to it or something he asked. No?
Yes, sir.
So this is what the background to that is, which was not. Now, I used to make a point when people felt disturbed about it, sometimes in general, I used to say how to take the course, how to take for your own life. For that, how to go about it, I used to give general guidelines in the classroom. But outside, when individuals used to come, sir, this is what I thought, I have never done this in my life, here I don't know what happened. There I used to tell them how individually taking the score. They score the thing. I don't collect the instruments and go and bring back. I used to tell you how to score it in the classroom. You have it with you. But when some of them want to clarify further in their individual sense, then when they come, I used to take that and tell them, guide them, this is what the score means. And I used to ask them certain questions which would relate them in their personal life earlier, what connections could be and how. It is not that, it does not conform to your concept, therefore you are bad. Now, you were what you were yesterday and today and now.
Yes.
But yesterday you did not know this, now you know this. But yesterday you were a good boy, a good girl, and today you have not changed. You have come to know certain things thanks to your data that you have produced. If you did the instrument properly with no irrelevant variables like, social desirability, or you want to paint a good picture about yourself, if these variables did not operate, then this is what it means. And therefore now you can think of how to use this knowledge that you have gained about yourself so that you can select areas and work on it to become better. This is how I used to go for individual level. In the classroom, I don't know anybody's score. So I thought I'll say that this also used to happen. Murali must be able to recall some such thing.
Yes, sir. I think
that's exactly that's what happens. Right? Just that the personal time you put in, that was the issue, and the people's and it also takes a toll on a teacher also, that's what I want to say. When you do this kind of exercises, the emotional toll you go through is also enormous, and I have to convey my kudos to you for that.
Yeah. Thank you, Professor Arul, for that very detailed response. That it really helped. Sir, there's a question from Suresh Satyamurthy. So if I can invite him now to please speak.
Yeah.
Hey, thanks, Padma.
You can introduce which batch and yourself.
Okay. I'm from the 8th batch,
Right.
PRM 87-89.
Right.
I've been practicing social distancing since the time I joined IRMA. Therefore, I have very few memories of what happened in those classes. But one very clear memory I have is Professor Arul from your class. This was the first ever lecture you came. And this is how I think you introduced the whole concept to us. And those of you who are listening intently, please grab a pen and paper. This might be useful to you even now. So it goes something like this. And in Professor Arul's words, those who know, they do. Those who can't, they manage. And those who can't manage, they teach management. And I teach management. I think those were the first lessons, and I think unforgettable. Thank you very much. That's all I wanted to share.
From the 5th batch, we have Tarun Das. Sir, would you like to speak and share your memory? Tarun Das, sir.
Yeah.
Tarun
Hi,
Das.
Professor Arul and everybody.
Hi, Tarun.
I remember Professor Arul from the interview date in one summer in Calcutta, where Madhav Rao, Professor Shekhar, and Arul, all three came. And those days, suddenly he asked me to start giving a lecture to the people about some issues. So I was really little stuck, in an interview, you address a set of people. So I quietly said, sir, my English is very poor because we just came those days from those Bengali medium. So he said, no, you speak in Bengali. I am okay with that. So anyway, I don't know what he understood, but after that, still I am there in IRMA. And last so many years, I'm outside. But one thing, what Arul has introduced, that the understanding yourself, that concept, that thinking about this is something is really, really even I value today. And whatever you are, Arul, in your view as a complete package, we love you. Thank you, Arul. Thank you for everything.
Briefly, in your time, if you felt there ever was a hesitation or if there was openness to discuss a variety of things. From the faculty,
from the students, or?
No, from the different stakeholders really. So it could be the board of directors, it could be the faculty,
You see, I heard that he was referring to all the stakeholders.
Yes, sir. Yeah. So if you would like to take the question, that's
I remember we used to bring people from the sector, the employers, potential employers of our graduates from IRMA. We used to bring as part of the course, and sometimes outside the course, we used to bring them to address the students, what they expect our graduates to be. That used to be there. I don't know if during his time, but in my course, that one of the courses that I developed there was something called Management of Change, which originally was called Coping with Organizational Realities. When I realized that, our fellows, after listening to these potential employers and students' anxieties, I actually designed that course called CORE, Coping with Organizational Realities. Then for some reason, the director said it is too romantic a title. Therefore, you think of changing it, and they changed it into Management of Change, MOC. So in that, I made it a point to bring in not just one, but several people, either the employers from the cooperative sector or some of our own students, senior students, who had gone out and have already got some years of experience outside in the outside world. I used to call them also and engage 2 sessions of 70 minutes each to talk to our students. And they, whenever I asked, this is my course, so much so far. Now, before we would like them to meet, talk to you people who know both sides. You know Irma, you have been here. Now you are outside in the world where these people are, preparing to come into. So you come and talk to them. And they said, yes, sir, we are very happy that you thought of us. We will come. In and there. They asked, what preparation should we do? And my answer was simple. Nothing, except prepare your mind that any question that comes from the class, any question is worthy of being answered. Don't take any question, even if it is normally speaking a silly question, you don't treat it as silly or immature. After all, some years ago, you were sitting there in the same classroom. So, maybe you would have asked and come, this is the preparation. Tell yourself, no question is to be treated as silly or immature. With that preparation, you come here, listen to the question and answer it. With that kind of a preparation, I used to bring these people, or from the outside. And Mr. B.M. Yas, he was not our student, though of course he did that GMP, he did. But otherwise, he was a manager already. I invited him to MOC, Management of Change course. He came and addressed the students in a session. So this is how to keep their anxieties low and preparation better. This we used to do so that the, preparations are more to the existing realities.
That's true.
And that's why I named it first, coping with organizational realities.
Right.
Which unfortunately some people thought it was too romantic to keep, therefore they changed it.
Management.
But therefore, I don't know if I came anywhere near answering his question and concern.
No, I think broadly you've laid out what the issue is.
This was
Madhusudanan. So you were there in the interview panel, who interviewed me into IRMA. The first term, as most of us would have felt, it was the toughest term because we were into a new institute, a new style of learning. So a lot of confusion. And getting adjusted to that. So most of the courses were really, sort of tough like. So IGB was like a it came as a boon, like, your teaching and the course itself also so good. So I owe a lot to you because that course did help me well to scrape through that first term. After first term, of course, we got settled and then, we could take it off from there. But the first term was, so most of the courses, we were like, when we were adjusting, I felt a bit tough and all, but you helped me a lot in getting me out of that kind of a problem, to scrape to the first term. So I still remember the classes and the way you taught us. It was all very so memorable, even today. So I want to thank you for that. And many of the tools which you taught us, I would even practice in my, in my official life as well as a personal life. So I just want to thank you for that. There are no questions, but I just want to give a thanks.
Thank you, Madhusudanan.
Thank you. Thank you, Madhusudanan.
Right.
Professor Arul, we owe you deep gratitude for being a wonderful teacher, for teaching us teaching us stuff that has stayed with us. Like Siddhi said, they are always in your mind, they influence the way you think, and it has made a huge difference in the way that we behave, conduct ourselves, also raise children, I would say. So thank you so much. We owe you deep gratitude. We wish you good health and happiness. I thank all the participants who are here to attend this webinar, PRM and non-PRM, if we have any. It is your presence and participation that makes all the difference. And I also thank the core team and the communication support team for making this possible. There have been some technical snags, but I think it's worth it. We are able to still meet and talk despite all the challenges. So I wish you all a very lovely evening, and thank you so much. We'll be back with the episode 3 of season 1 of a Heart to Heart Talk series. Till then, goodbye. Take care.